Last we left off, our ragtag group of adventurers found themselves in a confusing predicament when they all met up in the village of Wandermere in search of the same man. Their investigation ultimately led them to a carnival just outside the village known as Salatio Grek's Amazonarium of Wondrous Wonders. The owner, Salatio himself, invited them into his camp to partake in the amazement that is the Amazonarium. They were introduced to the entire team. Bobadan Mobo, the hobgoblin strongman. Jessamine, the tiny goblin woman who can see the future. Hornswoggle, the brave tamer of mighty beasts. And Stella and Hogden Zerk, known as the Zerk triplets, masters of the trapeze. Salatio highly encourages the team to make their way into the Big Top, where they can explore his extravagant collection of oddities while they wait for the show to start. As they peruse the strange museum, Mercury takes a liking to something that appears to be a real mermaid, while Ruin is immediately drawn to the large glass tube in the center of the room. Inside seems to be a floating skeleton submerged in a viscous green liquid. They are interrupted by Salatio, informing them that the skeleton was gifted to him. His name is Barry, and he doesn't like people getting too close. With a laugh, he tells them that the show is about to begin. They find their seats and notice something is a bit off. They're the only ones in the audience. As the show starts, Salatio gives a less than encouraging introduction, and is followed by what can only be described as a train wreck. Babadon emerges from backstage and lethargically lifts a few weights until he ultimately hoists a wooden cutout of a rhino. Dustin gives a roaring applause anyway, the only one to be given. Hornswoggle brings his whip on stage and calls for the beasts, but 4 raccoons scamper out and perform a painfully simple series of tricks. One even attempts to steal some gold from the party, but Dustin secretly takes notice. Finally, Stella and Hogden, the Zerk triplets, take their positions at the top of the trapeze, which ends early with a close to horrible conclusion. Salatio, very obviously feeling embarrassed, takes a bow and rushes his team backstage. Our group of adventurers decide to leave, but not before Dustin knocks over a burning torch in retaliation for the attempted theft, which partially sets the Big Top on fire as they walk away back toward the village. That night, the party decides to take some revenge on the deceptive circus folk and sneak back into the oddity room to steal a few valuables. They're met with 2 of the raccoons, seemingly standing guard on the campsite, and quickly dispatch them. One being gently knocked unconscious, and the other being tricked into a backpack with some food. Making their way back into the museum, they load up on what seem to be treasures, but Ruin beelines straight for the encased skeleton. As Mercury knocks on the glass, small cracks spiderweb across the surface and the entire contraption bursts. But the liquid retains its shape. They look on in horror as the undulating mass of goo thrusts towards them and attacks. With a few well-timed strikes from Stormageddon, a couple wild ice knives from Ruin, a literal blazing lion spirit from Dustin, and a near-death from Mercury, the gelatinous cube fizzles and melts into the dirt. The party stands over the sizzling puddle and catches their breath, trying to figure out what their next move will be.